Good morning, everybody. This is Patricia. I want to welcome you to this morning's podcast called The Dialogue. Before we get into our show, I just want to let you know that I hope that you are having a wonderful morning, that you are motivated today, that you are up with ambition and determination, and that you have a purpose in mind today so that you are not in your day just going about aimlessly, so that if you are fulfilling your purpose or your goals, you are ultimately in a place of fulfillment. So welcome. Today on The Dialogue, I want to talk to you about a topic that is very sensitive to my heart for personal reasons as well as many other reasons. And I feel like it's a topic that's cliche, that's not talked about as much. We see a lot about it on social media, but oftentimes we see it when it's actually too late for the person that has been impacted by this very issue that I'm going to talk about today. So don't forget to follow the podcast. I am excited. It is now available on Apple Tunes and other sites as well as Google Podcasts. It's also on Anchor and Spotify. So take a moment and follow the podcast. Make sure that you share it with someone that may be battling with something secretly that many other people don't know about. Maybe you're that person that they trusted and you don't know how to help. So maybe this podcast, you share it with them and it gives them the wisdom, the insight, or the comfort that they need in order to get help. And ultimately, that is the purpose for this podcast called The Dialogue. So dialogue is a conversation between two or more people. And so unfortunately, if I'm not in front of you guys physically, I still get to share this information with you from my location to your location, no matter where you are, no matter what city, state, or country you're located in. And as you receive the information, you go and you talk about it to someone else. And then that is how you guys have dialogue, but ultimately I get an opportunity to speak with you as well. Don't forget, you're always more than welcome to send comments or emails to me so that we can dialogue back with one another, so that you are able to get and receive insight, wisdom, knowledge, direction, and ultimately prayer for the direction that you need to go, the person that you need to impact, the purpose that you need to fulfill, and the destiny that you need to arrive at. So welcome. I hope that you enjoy this podcast. Today, I want to talk about the fact or an explanation as to why I hate the word addict. I hate the word addict. So most people they always say, don't say the word hate. We were taught when we were growing up, don't say that you hate people and things of that nature. However, I have come to understand that I have a righteous hatred for the word addict. So I'm a chemical dependency counselor. I've been in this field for about 2 years now. And it's very interesting. So on a daily basis, I get to go to my job. And this is actually the first time, or maybe second, that I've actually disclosed this on this podcast as far as what I do. And it's so ironic because I've been counseling people for years. Majority of them impacted by rape or molestation, homelessness or poverty, abandonment or rejection by their parents, mental issues, and the list goes on and on. And I know you wonder where I got that experience from, because it was personal. Those were a lot of things that I went through. Codependency, being in a toxic, narcissistic relationship for 10 years, not being able to see my worth and value because of relationships with family members. My life is just dynamically imploded with unfortunate circumstances that God has helped me overcome. So drug and alcohol usage is not one of the things that I was impacted by personally. I've never actually used substances in my life. However, I have people around me, loved ones, friends, that have utilized drugs as a coping mechanism or for recreational purposes, simply because they like it. They like how they feel. They like that out-of-body experience, that they can escape the moment through a chemical. And I will be completely honest. I recently had a friend that overdosed and passed away. And she was a wonderful, amazing person. I'm not going to disclose her name for discretionary purposes, because this is not at all a moment to use what happened to her to further my own personal agenda. However, it was something that sparked me to do my first podcast pertaining to this particular conversation, because I was going through something, and you guys can check out my last podcast called The Drug Zone, and you'll hear the story about how this woman came into my life and helped me. The beautiful part about it is that no one actually knew that me and her had that moment of impact with one another, but it forever changed the direction of my life. And so that is partially the reason for the title, I Hate the Word Addict. Because when I first met this person, I not only did I know that they were addicted to drugs, you couldn't tell me that they were an addict. Because I think that's number one of the hardest reasons for family members that have people that are addicted to drugs to admit. You know, when we were kids, you would hear the word, that person's a crackhead, or that person is all type of derogatory comments. And then for us to have it so close to home and have it be so personal to where this family member, maybe it's your mom, maybe it's your dad, maybe it's your cousin, maybe it's your brother or sister, is labeled as a crackhead or a fiend by other people. And then you come to the realization that that's what it is in the most derogatory sense. They are an addict. And so I am familiar with NA and NA Celebrate Recovery and other organizations that have come about to tackle this plague, to tackle this dilemma that we have in our communities that have ravished our communities and households and families. I can be honest and say, I think out of about 85, maybe 80 to 85% of the world, someone has been impacted by drugs. Someone that you know, someone that you sat next to on the bus, someone that you got their telephone number, someone even that you may live with may secretly have an issue where they're battling with drugs. And it's such of a secretive, isolating problem. Most people can do it, and it can get so bad to where they actually don't even care that other people know, and it deforms them. It changes their outward structure as far as their physique. Their teeth decompose oftentimes, loss of weight gain, and all type of things, hair loss, many different things that impact a person when they're actively using illicit drugs. However, I work at a clinic or a facility, and I'm the counselor there. And now they prescribe what is known as methadone, Suboxone, Vivitrol, and these are supposed to be legal drugs that are inhibitors for the craving to want to go out and use illicit substances. So I will get into that information another day. As of right now, let's stay focused and let me help you understand why I hate the word addict. And so I get an opportunity to go to work, and I work a certain amount of hours, and in those hours I get to have sessions with patients that tell me their stories. They tell me what happened to them in their childhood. They tell me their dreams. They tell me the goals that they had, how they wanted to go to college and be nurses and doctors and start businesses and all different type of things. And one specific interaction with drugs changed their life. At this point, I don't think I've met a person that has actually done drugs that didn't try it multiple times or that didn't get hooked. If they consistently did it, some people said within a day, within a specific time that they used it, or in a week, these people were chemically dependent on substance usage. The reason why I love what I do is because I get an opportunity to come into this person's life, give them logical reason or rational reason as to why they are actually using drugs. And so lately, I've had the wonderful opportunity to start to watch this show called Intervention, which is on YouTube. I believe it's a 30-minute series. However, when they take the commercials out, it's about 12 to 15 minutes of recorded content. And so on these shows, they go into people's lives, either their families write them letters or a very close friend write them letters, and they ultimately follow them around for a little bit. You can see people in their homes doing drugs. Their kids are there. They either lock themselves in a bathroom or in their room. They're staying with the parents. Some people are staying out on the street. And these people are using drugs, whether it's amphetamines, methamphetamines, barbiturates, tranquilizers, fentanyl, cocaine, heroin, marijuana. The list goes on and on. PCP. Now I've heard of just a couple other different drugs, Rizzo, crocodile, and xylazine. So throughout this list of drugs, they are utilizing them, and you can see that their families are devastated. Their friends are devastated, and ultimately they are as well. These people started out, I don't want to say normal, because whose life can we actually put a standard up to say normal? Because we've all had diversity in issues of adversity. And so you will see these people in the show. They will start out, they've had some either childhood trauma or something happened to them, and sometimes they've even had a wonderful life. I know sometimes, I've talked to people and they're like, my life was amazing. I didn't have a bad childhood. I got with someone that introduced this to me, and my life took a total turn for the worse. And so I was just binge watching this show. I'll tell you my guilty pleasure. I binge watched this show, a couple episodes, back to back to back. And it seems as though it was the same story, but it actually wasn't. Some of these people have been raped. Some of them have been molested. Some of them have been beat on by their fathers and their mothers. Some of them have been abandoned. Some of them have been bullied, and their childhood just ravished. And so they felt alienated, isolated, misunderstood. And so drugs was something that they turned to. And you would hear them say that their families, when you talk to them in an intervention, they were beautiful. They had so much going for themselves. They went to college. They were a nurse. They were a doctor. They were a dancer. It was one celebrity, Amber Rose, who actually went on this show, and one of her best friends was hooked on drugs. And when she went to try to do the intervention with her, ultimately her boyfriend deterred her or discouraged her from going, and her 2 children were actually in need of help as well, because it does affect the children. They ultimately grow up feeling as though their moms and dads doing drugs was their fault. If they're so young, they'll feel like it's something they've done wrong that pushed their mom and dad away from them. And ultimately, it will open the door for so much trauma and anger with the children. And they need therapy as well. And the family needs therapy, because it can just be so dramatic and heartbreaking. However, today I want to switch the narrative. I know that you hear me talking about the person that is addicted to chemical dependency and how much heartbreak and pain that they've caused from their addiction. But it still stands that I hate the word addict. When people go to NA or NA, they say, hey, my name is such and such, I'm an addict, and they'll go on to share their story. However, by faith, I understand that whatever you speak over yourself and whatever you prescribe to yourself or call yourself, that's ultimately the destiny that you'll walk out. So if you go to a meeting, and this is no disrespect to any type of meeting, but I'm just the type of person, I believe that you should watch the things that you speak over yourself. And you consistently and every day have to acknowledge and or state, hi, my name is such and such and I'm an addict. Hi, my name is such and such and I'm addicted to heroin or fentanyl or cocaine. However they state it, that is going to continuously create a stronghold over this person's life to where their mind is like, okay, you're an addict, you're addicted. I don't understand why they can't say, hi, my name is such and such. I was addicted, or I am no longer addicted to such and such. To me, the word addict, it brands a person in such a negative connotation that when people start to know them or come into a place of getting to know them, this is how they brand and tag them, and they don't look at them the same. Being an addict, unfortunately, can be one of the worst reputations that a person has. Worse than being homeless, worse than being in poverty, because people that they say are addicted are known or have been stigmatized and stereotyped to do some of the worst things to get what they need. Sometimes they're looked at as though they're prostitutes, that they will steal a person's man to get money, that they will rob, that they will cheat on people, that they will steal, that their finances are horrible, their home life, they don't have any connection, anybody that loves them, everybody has turned against them. And it seems like everybody in the family knows that one particular cousin or aunt or uncle or even just a friend that is addicted to drugs. But I want to help you today. I want to help you understand that if you are the person that does have an issue with drugs, and I tell my patients this all the time, you are not the problem, you have a problem. And I sometimes make them laugh because I'll tell them, everybody has an addiction. Some people have an addiction to money. Some people have an addiction to gambling. Me, I have an addiction to sherbet, raspberry preferably. And any addiction that you have, it can cause issues. If you're addicted to gambling, that's money. If I eat too much sherbet, that could be a health issue in the future. And by the way, I have significantly slowed down, as well as keto popcorn. Okay, but just because I eat keto popcorn, that is not the same as a person being classified as an addict. Yes, if I ate too much, I would probably be talked about, demeaned, and degraded because I don't have that womanly figure that everyone is just so nuts about. But that's not enough to make people not want to talk to me, to make people stay away from me, to be alienated, demeaned, and degraded with verbal words and mental abuse. It's not the same thing. And so in the sessions and actually on the intervention, and I said I would love to do that because there's only so far with my scope of practice at work that I can go with the patients. You know, getting in there, talking to them about God, elevating their faith, because they've seen so many deaths, so many people have seen people overdose and die. They themselves have overdosed and died. And some people have come back to life. Some people ultimately are not here to tell their story, but they've seen it. You know, people that have issues with substance usage, they sometimes have been severely taken advantage of. We always look at them as though they're the ones taking advantage of people. No, they've also been taken advantage of. Some people have been raped because, you know, when you do drugs, you're incoherent at that time. You can either be passed out. Some women have been taken advantage of. Some men have been taken advantage of as well. But ultimately, that's not a story that anybody ever wants to tell. And on top of that, people have been devastated by the comments that they received and the remarks from people. And I'm not going to lie. I will be completely and blatantly honest. If you know someone on drugs or that is addicted, sometimes you do have to stay away from your own mental sanity, because it is a revolving door and a roller coaster. If this person has not decided to make up their mind that they want to be sober, that sobriety is the lifestyle that they want, it will be up and down. And then a lot of times it's a dual diagnosis, because not only do they have the chemical dependency, it also leads to a lot of mental issues. Many people that are chemically dependent have a lot of mental issues. However, I'll put a bullet point in that and do a segue or another segment, and we'll discuss more of that later. However, it still stands that I hate the word addict. I hate that they have been branded. I hate that they have been mistreated and talked to and lied on. And most people think once they say it, it's like, oh, it's true, because that's just their nature. But I want to ask a question. What makes them any different from the person on Wall Street that stole all the money and created the crash, the economy crash in 2008 with all the mortgages? What is the difference from an adulterer? What is the difference from someone that is a cheater or a liar or a manipulator? I want to put this question in your head. Why is the addict or the addicted person deemed worse or horrible, more horrible than an average person that has an issue as well? So what I try to do is I try to offer perspective. And it is very difficult at times to give hope to a person that every time, we take a chance with life every time we get up. But this is a different type of chance, because one injection, one use of snorting, one use of smoking, not even a full use. Maybe you get a hot shot, which is where, someone shoots you up with something and it just wasn't good drugs. But you can say good drugs, but are any drugs good? And it stops your heart. And you're gone. But my question is, what makes this person any different? They take a extreme risk with life every day. And a lot of them feel like they're not loved and people don't care about them, and it's very difficult for them to get back into the swing of things in regular life. So I hate the word addict because it does not give a person an opportunity, unless you're very compassionate, understanding, and humble. You actually do not get an opportunity to know that person. People will see homeless people on the corners and automatically register that it has something to do with addiction. I've talked to people and they said, well, I wanted to give them money, but I didn't know if they were going to go buy beer or drugs or something like that. And that's just automatically what the mind of judgment goes to. But nevertheless, I hate the word addict because they're still human beings. They still have a heart. I met some of the most wonderful, intelligent, amazing people in my career field. They are loving. They are friendly. They have dreams, goals, and aspirations. They have families. They have friends. But they also have traumatic life experiences that have led them on a path where they need to be redeemed. Just like all of us, we all have some sin or imperfection or something in our lives that can come in and take over, like a green field that is suddenly filled with weeds, and then you can't see the green grass. This is what happens in their lives. It gets so bad for some people that they lose houses and cars, money and children and people. They lose their hygiene, meaning that they don't wash or eat or sleep because the only thing that they can think about is this illicit substance. But I want someone to hear me today and understand today that it is harder than what you think, because the brain starts to depend on this drug so much to the point that a percentage of people don't function. They can't function. You have, I hate the word addict, but you have a functioning person and a non-functioning person that are addicted to illicit drugs. Nevertheless, as I stated, I hate the word addict because of all of the negative connotations that come with it, the feelings that come with it, how they have to sit with themselves and, yes, come to the realization that they have a problem, but now they are branded. And this is how they are seen. So today, I just wanted to come on and paint a different picture. Give someone an opportunity to understand someone that they wouldn't give the time of day or talk to or socialize with because of what they deem as that unredeemable issue. Now, I've heard testimonies where people have gotten delivered just through praying, God, please take this away from me. I don't want this anymore. And he's definitely able and capable. And then sometimes he sent people through the long journey where they've gone to counseling and made my job wonderful because I love talking to them, where they've gone to counseling. And they've had the long process of going back through their childhood, forgiving the people that hurt them, forgiving the people that they've hurt, making amends with God and a covenant with him that they pledge that they won't do it anymore. And then life happens. And it's a roller coaster. Up and down and back and forth. And we have to understand how exhausting it is for them to lose money, time, opportunity, chances, relationships, all because they are addicted to a drug. As I stated, I hate the word addict because they're human beings and they're people. They are people that have hearts and have feelings. And sometimes they need someone to step in and be gracious to them and loving to them and love them past themselves. One of my patients brought in a quote and it said that inevitably our fear is that we are loved in spite of ourselves. And that helped me understand that God loves us in spite of ourselves. He loves the person addicted to drugs and alcohol in spite of themselves. And ultimately, he knows why they're doing it. My question is, have we taken the chance to sit down and understand why they do what they do? If you haven't, and you know someone that is addicted, I challenge you to do so today. Take the time to make that person feel human. Do something nice for them. Let that be their decision. That's what unconditional love is. You just love that person for where they are at that time. It doesn't mean that you're not hurt or that you're not disappointed. You ultimately just let that person be. And so those are a couple reasons why I hate the word addict. It is my heart that someone understood this, that you share it with someone, that you are inspired. And I'm going to be back with more content on this conversation because a lot of times I hear not a lot of content from the addict. And I'm sorry, I hate that word. It's so frequent. I hate it. But just, I want to paint a different picture. I want to give someone that has the issue hope. And ultimately, I want them to be known as human. So other people don't feel threatened, afraid, and scared of a person that has an issue with addiction. So I hope that you have a wonderful day. I hope that you share this podcast with someone. And I am going to be back with more information. And I hope that you have a wonderful and amazing day. Goodbye, everybody. So good morning, everybody. It is Saturday, and I love Saturdays because it is the time where it is the end of the week. If you haven't had to work, unfortunately, I had to today, but you get a chance to breathe and just have some time to yourself. So I wanted to come on and do this podcast because, of course, I am driving. However, I get a lot of my inspiration, like I said, when I am driving, when I am en route to somewhere, and it's probably more than likely the movement or the fast acceleration where my mind is just probably thinking of a lot of different things of inspiration and how I can share it and help someone else. So I love to do it when I'm in the car. And so with all that being said, welcome to the dialogue. Reason being that this is titled The Dialogue is hopefully as I'm speaking with you, even though we are not physically in front of one another and in the same place, hopefully you are getting something from the conversation and you are sharing it with another person, which means that you are dialoguing and conversing with someone else about what you were either taught or what you learned or something that sparked your attention as you listen to this podcast. So I want to welcome you. My name is Patricia. And so today, this is going to be a very deep and sensitive message today. But I believe in legacy, and they say give people their flowers while they're here on earth. And so this is going to be a very personal message today, and in hopes of inspiring someone that if you are in need of help, to do so. And so I'm going to go ahead and start. So currently I am working at a chemical dependency center, which means that I see people every single day that are addicted to crack, addicted to heroin, amphetamines, methamphetamines, barbiturates, tranquilizers, opiates, marijuana. The list goes on and on. And I've been doing this for about 2 years on October 5th. And so it's called a chemical dependency counselor. So I counsel people that are addicted to substances. And I apologize in advance if I get emotional or if you hear me crying, because that's not the purpose of the podcast. However, just with the recent news that I got, it just may be a possibility, which lets you know and understand that this subject is very dear to my heart. And so as I'm working at this job, and of course I'm not going to disclose anybody's personal information because that will be a HIPAA violation, but I am going to do a generalized podcast about what I observe or what I have observed over the years. And so when I first started out, I started a job in Madison, Ohio as a peer supporter. Same thing going on, but I was a peer supporter, and I also had my chemical dependency license, okay? And so I've done that, and then I've been a case worker for people with substance use issues, and I'm counseling. And in all three of these fields, I get the wonderful opportunity to talk to people that battle through addiction daily. And my patients know that I loathe the word addict, that they are classified as addicts, and I'm going to tell you why, and then I'm going to dedicate this podcast to somebody. I hate the word addict because they are always deemed as the worst people. People think they steal, that they prostitute, they sleep around. People think that they do some of the lowest things to supply their habits. And where that may very well be true, I've also worked with a population that doesn't struggle financially and doesn't have to do anything to acquire the funds that they need to fuel their habit. However, there are some people that do things to fuel their habit, okay? So you got two different types of situations or scenarios, okay? Recently, I have really been shocked as I've been watching the news. There was recently an actress that passed away. She was involved in a car accident. Well, actually, I believe she hit a tree, and she had cocaine in her system. Also, the gentleman, and I do not recall his name, from The Wire, that was found with drugs in his system. He was in his system, and he was in a house by himself. However, how many celebrities have gone to rehab for drug addictions. You have Bobby and Whitney Brown. I mean, the list just goes on. You have Prince that was addicted to substances as well. You have Michael Jackson that was addicted to embalming fluid, if I'm not mistaken. Okay? You have all different types of people from all different walks of life, all different age brackets. I just was at the doctor's office, at the eye doctor's office, and a nurse walked in and said how she just tried to save this little girl's life that was 16 years old. And they were driving around with this little girl in a car, and she started seizing, and they went to a party that she was at, and when she tried to help her, she was dead. She overdosed. And so I currently reside in Canton, Ohio, and I work in Kent, Ohio, and I'm from Akron, Ohio. And between these three regions, or these three areas, the overdosing at this point is ridiculous. There are so many people that are dying from usage of drugs. I just had a scenario where I heard that it was a parent in their car. Their son was out playing at a park, and the son went back to look for his dad, and he was dead in the car because he overdosed, because he decided to take some of the drugs while his kid was at the park playing. The most ironic part is that no one even knew that he was doing drugs. The person that was dating him suspected, when they heard that he died, that was what it was because of whatever reasons. But he died, and his son found him. And so today, I've been working at this specific job since April 12th of this year. And so we serve a population of patients, and it's about maybe 95 that are addicted to drugs. And so I get the wonderful opportunity of going in and counseling these bright, beautiful people that fight every day to not use an IV, to not pick up a crack pipe, to not snort, to not drink substances, to not eat substances, to not inject it in between their feet, in their veins, in their muscles. And I sit on the other side of the desk and try and be as non-judgmental as possible to give them a warm heart and a warm experience for an hour out of the day, if they make it, that will try to last them for as long as possible. And so recently, I just heard of a friend, or let's just say someone that supported me in my journey of homelessness, that overdosed and died. And let me tell you why this one was hard, because, and I'm going to share my personal business. There was a time where I was homeless, and I've shared this before on Facebook, and I was sleeping in a car. Well, I shared that I was homeless, not this specific scenario, but I was homeless for 9 years. I moved around between different houses for 9 years. And I was sleeping in a car. I had been sleeping in a car for 3 days. It was 16 degrees outside. I had a blanket. I was able to go into my friend's house to wash daily. But ultimately, I had nowhere to go. I reached out to a couple people. No one's heart was moved to allow me to come stay with them. But I'm going to tell you how divine God's timing and his providence is. Not just for me, but for this other person. And I'm going to keep her name discreet for purposes of just maintaining her integrity. However, that morning, I had been using my friend's USB in her car, and I was listening to a message, and the message was talking about how sometimes you have to go to where God is telling you and wait for your miracle. And the man was saying how God told him to go to this McDonald's for breakfast, and he wasn't hungry, but he knew the Lord was telling him to go. When he got there, it was a lady there. He ended up praying for her. She got a breakthrough or some deliverance. And long story short, how she wouldn't have got it if he wasn't obedient to go, but if she wasn't obedient also to be there at that time. So God had been dealing with me about walking to this specific location, but my feet were froze. It was freezing cold outside. It was 16 degrees, and I slept in the car that evening. So I started to complain. I said, well, Lord, I am tired. Like, my feet are cold. I can't walk up there. But I kept feeling that nudge that I needed to do it. And so my friend's car, because I was using her USB, the battery died. So she told me, like, hey, I need you to get out the car and walk around the corner because my family is going to come and they're going to jump the battery. But, I don't want them to see you in the car with your blanket and stuff like that and ask questions. So, boom, that was the indication right there that I didn't have a choice but to go to where God told me to go. He made it to where that door, at that open door where I was at was closed. So I didn't have a choice but to go where he was telling me to go. And so I told her, I said, okay, I'll just walk around the corner to the transit. She was like, no, I just need you to walk just one block over so he can't see you. But I knew what God was telling me to do. So I got out of the car and I walked to the transit, which was the bus station. And it was freezing. And when I got in there, I saw one of my relatives, but for some reason, I knew not to tell them what I really was going through. But I knew I was at that bus station for a miracle. I knew that something was going to happen. I knew that somehow God was going to open a door to provide for me to have somewhere to stay, because prior to that, I had nowhere to go. I had been staying with my friend, and some things happened, which put me in the car. And so as I get to the transit, this bright ray of sunshine comes in, and she's like, hey, how are you doing? And me and her had been at church together. We had saw each other periodically. We, it was always like a tender moment with me and her. She was just a sweetheart. And so we go and we sit down. Well, I think I was already sitting down. She came in and sat down with me, and she was like, how are you doing? And I said, I'm not doing too good right now. I'm homeless. She said, you're homeless? I said, yeah, I'm sleeping in the car. And I said, whatever. And she was like, not anymore. And she let me move in her house with her that day. She never charged me rent. At the time, I wasn't working. She never charged me rent. She never made me watch her children. She never made me cook for her, clean for her, anything. I did do her hair a couple times, but she didn't extort me or use me in my low place, in my vulnerable place. Long story short, recently I have just heard that this person has passed away. Ironically enough, when I stayed there with her, I could tell that there were some things that were going on with her that may have pointed to her having an addiction, but I never said anything to her to bring that out or to make her feel bad or to condemn her or make her feel bad about her choices. She still was able to function and live throughout her life, so I didn't bring it up to her, but she always told me, like, Patricia, I'm struggling. There's something that I want to tell you. And I told her, I said, it's okay, I already know. So in that silent conversation, what was understood didn't need to be explained. That didn't take away from her humanity because she had an issue. I didn't look at her differently because she was struggling. She had some problems. So eventually it became time for me to leave. But me and her were able to spend that time together. Moral of the story is, and I have 2 bullet points, and it might lead into 3, we don't know. But at the end of the day, I want to respect her, and I just, share my love for her and appreciation for her, helping me in a very critical time where I didn't have anywhere to go and all the doors in my life were shut. She opened up her door, but she opened up her heart towards me. And I'll never forget that we would sit there watching the Muppets and just talk about life and talk about the Bible. And she was just a lovely soul. That's bullet point number 1. Number 2, I want to put the disclaimer on the fact that people that are addicted to drugs, they are not the worst people in the world. So many patients that I talk to They are so loving and gentle and kind. They have issues, but I tell them all the time, you are not the problem. You have a problem. We just got to find a solution to help you get over it and work through it. But they are wonderful, bright, intelligent people that are coming to the facility that want help. And I will be honest with you, a lot of people that have unfortunately been introduced to drugs started because they went to a hospital or they had a major surgery and they were given opioids. And when they were given it, it was too much. The dose and the milligram was too high and they became addicted. So, of course, when you get out of the hospital where you don't have a doctor to give it to you, you still have those cravings and triggers and withdrawal symptoms and issues, and you ultimately go out to get something harsher. And so a lot of people have become addicted to drugs in that manner. Okay. I also want to tell people that listen to this podcast, if you have someone that you know with drugs, don't judge them. If you can't help them, just stay away from them. And because I have to do that myself, there are some very personal relationships in my life that I have to stay away from. It's your own choice. Nobody's judging you or treating you bad. Some people don't understand. You have to do what's best for you and what's healthy for you. But I will tell you, if I was still around those people, I would not be able to openly address and talk about issues of addiction. The last disclaimer that I'm going to put on before I end this podcast, if you are someone battling with addiction, please go get help. There are so many drugs that they're lacing together. Fentanyl with cocaine, benzos with cocaine and fentanyl in it. And people are buying the regular type of drug. They don't even know that this stuff is in their substances until the urine screens come back. And so people think that they just have a light addiction. Okay, we understand. But what they're lacing and putting with the stuff with, it is causing massive deaths, overdoses. I mean, now they do have it to where you can do the Narcan. If that's administered, then you possibly can save someone else's life. But I believe that it's very hard. I've never heard of anybody being able to Narcan themselves in time to not overdose and die. Overdosing is quick. You shoot this stuff up one time. In 30 seconds, you can be dead. You take one sniff of something that used to be white and now it's brownish or pinkish or bluish, that's laced with something, and you're gone. I tell my patients all the time, I'm so relieved when I come back to work and nobody has overdosed. We don't have to discharge a patient because they died. And so I just want to get on and share my heart with you today, because drugs has touched everybody's household. Majority of all people have someone that is either on drugs or they know someone that is on drugs. If you are someone struggling, please go get help. I'm going to try to come on to give more insight and more information about the battle with addiction, and hopes that you share it and that you hear it. And you share it with someone else. If you are listening to this and you are the person struggling with drugs, you are a bright, beautiful person. You are not overlooked. God loves you. You have a purpose. There is still time for you to save your life. And I just want to admonish you that God has not forsaken you. You are still His child. No matter if anybody else has written you off or rejected you because of your issue, He still loves you. He can help you get clean. He can help you remain sober. Yes, you will have to do the work. Yes, you will have to implement practical things in order to stay sober. You may have to get rid of people. You may have to come out of places. You might have to get rid of things, but it is possible. It is possible for you to live a life of sobriety. It is possible for you to live a life that you enjoy, for you to wake up in the morning and be free of the first thing that's on your mind is to go and get your need or your itch fixed. It's possible. It is possible. Yes, you need the right resources. Yes, you need some support, but you can do it. So I'm going to come back on here, and I'm going to have more information about this. And I pray that someone finds relief to know that you're seen, that we see you, we understand, you are being prayed for, you are loved, you are God's child, and there is help for you. If you know someone struggling with drugs, please go ahead and share this podcast with them in hopes to inspire and uplift so that they go, enter into the road of recovery. I will be back with more content, and thank you so much for tuning into the dialogue. Please, you can subscribe, I believe, to the email list at the bottom, or you can get notifications as to when the next podcast will be coming up. But overall, thank you so much for listening. My name is Patricia, and I hope that you guys have a wonderful Saturday. I'll be back with more information soon. Bye.